Welcome to the final episode of our Monster of the Week series, everyone. This series, we welcomed Tyler Samples, keeper of the Mystery County Monster Hunters Club podcast, to join us to learn all about this horror urban fantasy RPG from Evil Hat Productions. In today's episode, we get to the discussion portion of the series, along with some unpredictable fan fiction that I'm sure Amelia loves every single day. But before we get to all of that, here's what to expect in our calls to action.
You can join us here after the show to hear about the latest one-shot network news, including the network Patreon drive. We'll also have information about an update in our social media presence going forward, info about our Patreon, patron thank yous, and social call to action.
With all of that out of the way, enjoy the show, everybody.
Welcome back to our discussion episodes. Last time we finished our session 0 for our Monster of the Week game. It was something. This episode, we are discussing the character creation process. We're excited to welcome back Tyler Samples from the Mystery County podcast right here on the One Shot Network. Tyler, do you want to reintroduce yourself for everyone at home? And please tell us about your character.
Okay, my name is Tyler Samples. I run the Mystery County podcast, and my character that I created last time is Grantham McAllister, a professional who is a Nepo baby who is the fourth generation within his family, within his billionaire family's nonprofit philanthropical outreach that does supernatural intervening. He is very diffident about all of it. He doesn't really care and is looking to do the least amount of work possible. He is very cool and very good at maintaining composure because
he'll be the first to tell you how cool he is.
100%. And he is protected. His greatest strength is money. And the only real thing that he is invested in this world is trying to tease out some relational networks that he has with our fellow characters, some of whom may or may not happen to be Muppets.
Well, I think all of that was very clear, and I don't believe that our audience would have any questions about what those relationships are.
No.
I think
Certainly
the hosts of this show have no questions at all.
Exactly. So I'm essentially terrible at my job, and yet somehow I manage to successfully do my job.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're a professional.
Yeah, and because I'm able to fail up.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Grantham is like the definition of failing upwards, honestly.
1,000%.
Yes, the poster boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Ryan, please tell us about your character.
I don't know why you have reservations with that.
You're
with that
very
question.
normal, regular, average
My
character.
very super average, normal character. They are a gumshoe. So kind of like the private investigator sort of playbook. And their name is Flapjack the Cat, and they're a Muppet.
Mm-hmm.
As you do. Human-sized Muppet. Picture Fozzie the Bear, but a cat. Orange tabby. Right? That's Flapjack the Cat. Flapjack is just a grizzled old, tired of everything private detective.
Getting too old for this.
Getting too old for this. Wearing a fedora and a trench coat. And they are an actual Muppet controlled by a Muppeteer. And the Muppeteer is, Well, the son of the Muppeteer that is controlling the Muppet that is Tyler's character, Grantham's mother. It's not confusing if you lay it all out on paper and see the grid and the red string that connects it all together.
The Muppeteer is my younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and the Muppeteer is Amelia's character's younger brother, who she thinks is dead because has not been seen because, Flapjack is a consummate professional and is always in character. Mm-hmm. Yes. There's a lot more to unpack with this character, but Amelia,
I think that's really the important part right there. Yeah.
How about you tell us about your character? Yep.
Sure. I played the super wild and out there compared to these people, Tennessee novella. Tennessee is a charlatan. Tennessee is your classic snake oil salesman, and or neurodivergent person that everyone thinks is psychic because she has excellent pattern recognition. So, Tennessee does some crime here and there. Particularly, is on the watch list of McAllister's aide. Because they believe her to be, like a level 10 super mega psychic, accidentally. And obviously, Grantham has done so much to dissuade them from that belief.
Yeah, it's so hard. I need to keep such a close eye on you. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's really... I can't follow up on any of the Muppet situation from there.
And who have you crossed? Who are your enemies?
Yes. I have pissed off a well-connected criminal named Dusty, and more importantly, I guess, Greer, who is an actual psychic, is not too happy with me because I might have taken advantage of her, with my definitely real psychic powers.
Mm-hmm.
Oops.
Amazing.
I'm sure this is fine and nothing will go wrong for any of us.
It's interesting that we created a very typical Monster of the Week group with our character creation.
Yeah, I would agree.
Nothing off the
so
rails
here's
at
my
all.
question is, what is a not typical Monster of the Week crew, Ryan?
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
You look at Mystery County and it goes in places.
It does. I would probably curtail some of our excesses that we had for Mystery County, but not for a guest episode. This feels incredibly normal to a guest episode.
Yeah.
And then I would scramble to make sense of how it fits into the rest of everything else.
Like, you should know that as a guest, I would never walk onto someone's show and announce that I am a Muppet. So
yeah, I mean, they had a frog person.
We did. We had somebody who was just like, "Yeah, I'm a frog person. I'm a boy who's slowly becoming a frog," and it was like, "Yep, you are
Ricky Ribbit.
You sure are, buddy. Okay."
You sure are. And that was honestly one of the less weird parts of that episode. So, we've had so many things. I mean, we definitely did like the multiverse jump the shark thing pretty early. So I do have the luxury of always being like, yes, that is absolutely true in this other universe that we are briefly in before we go back to our main universe where things aren't quite that crazy.
Yep.
Which helps. It helps.
That is nice.
It's very good.
It's a nice little way out that you've left yourself there.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and dive right into a segment that we are calling D20 for your thoughts.
D20 for your thoughts?
In this segment, we talk to our guests about their thoughts on character creation in this system, in games overall, how it relates to how we play games, all of that good stuff. But first, we have to ask the most cliche question in RPG podcasting. How did you get into RPGs? How did it come to this?
Great question. How did I find myself here talking about Muppets? And whether or not it's horrifying or sad.
Where did it all go wrong, Tyler?
Right. Or so very, very right. I did not really play games, role-playing games growing up. I didn't really have like a nerd community that was that I had access to. So let's see. For me, I was living in Chicago. I was an improviser. I had tons of funny friends. I think I had just gone through a pretty massive breakup and was feeling kind of weird. And so I knew I needed to hang out with people more. And a friend of mine, I think my exposure to it all might have been through the podcast Nerd Poker. I think somebody told me that it would be fun to listen to, and I knew some of the comedians on it or knew of them. And so I started listening. I was like, that does sound fun. I would like to try that. And so asked around, and I had one friend who had ever played D&D before, and he was like, oh yeah, I would totally do that. I won't run, but I don't want to run the game though. And so I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so
Good for you.
Yeah. And so I got the books and read up on them all, and then ran a game for my friends, and then kind of, fell down the rabbit hole from there. And our podcast started, our podcast is all people. We played D&D and other systems a lot in Chicago, and then we all kind of independently found ourselves having trickled out to Los Angeles and started playing again, and then did that classic thing of like, this could be a podcast.
Yeah.
And then
we're funny.
And then
Except you guys actually are like trained comedians.
Well, and that was the thing.
I'm just like, I have a lot of trauma. So
right. And so we were like, yeah, let's go ahead and put it out and see how it is. And it really came from a single text thread from us all, where I think Alan just started talking about like the number of missing people in Mystery County, and that it was totally fine and shouldn't be a thing that anybody should be worried about. And that is how we got Mystery County. That is how we got our central conceit and all of that. Because then everybody just started talking about like they started doing bits as high schoolers next to the lake where everybody keeps going missing. And it was truly like our session 0. I have it saved on my computer because like the whole text thread, because it is like it goes straight into our first season. All of that text.
That's
world
so
building.
cool.
Yeah, it was really fun.
That's so cool. Because like I joke a lot about like how our podcast started, which was Ryan tweeted something. It's like, hey, wouldn't this be a cool idea? And I was like, that's a great idea. And then Ryan DM'd me and was like, do you want to do this? And I was like, sure. We'd never met each other before. Like
Wild.
we didn't. Yeah. No, like knew of each other.
Tangentially knew
right,
of
like
each
we
other.
had some of the same friends, but we were just like, yeah, and like registered for an email the next day. But I love that like you guys have like lore and all of that just like over text message. Like, wouldn't it be funny if?
Yeah, exactly. It was just them doing bits and me being like, wait a minute, I feel a shift in the ether. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make you regret everything that you just said.
I'm going to lock you into at least 4 years of weekly, because we also record different than other podcasts do. We record every week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it is just because essentially we just maintained our game schedule. So we just meet once a week and we play for about an hour. Like Ryan knows, Ryan edits our podcast. There is very little. What you hear of our podcast is essentially the entire recording session. There's maybe 5 minutes of downtime before, and we it's very tight, and so there's not a lot of wiggle room. On it, which is fun.
That's really nice that you're able to like maintain that feeling, because like I've done actual play before, and I think we did every other week, and they were split into like 2 episodes or something. Yeah, but it's nice that like you're able to maintain that sort of like friendship part of it, of like, this is our weekly game. Yeah. On top of like, okay, also we're making content.
Yeah, I agree. It feels really nice. It feels magical and impossible to maintain. Like even the fact that we have maintained a steady recording schedule every week for 4 years, regardless of
like, I don't really want to say that out loud because
I know, just the idea of having the same time every week that you play any RPG is
as like a group of
how
grown-ups.
are we doing this?
I don't understand.
Luckily, we're like barely grown-ups. We're physically aged into them. We're all the movie big, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Tyler, what sort of process or mechanic do you really love to see in a character creation system?
So for me, it boils down to I love anything that is collaborative, as you said in our last session, Ryan. That like collaborative storytelling is the best way to get buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
So I love anytime you ask somebody else a question, and then you build out and their answer informs what you are going to do or how you're building. Like I think that is really lovely. And I think anything, I want every mechanic to be rooted in narrative. Like I want every choice, every mechanical choice you're doing to have implications and extensions. So like for Amelia, for like you had the crooked character, one of the mechanical options is that you have a deal with the devil. Yes. Is a thing you can take. And that is like narratively interesting, like these narrative limitations or tweaks that come from it. Or like Ryan, your character is a gumshoe, you have a code, and mechanically your code impacts the narrative of following it or not. And I think anything like that is really fun. I just find narrative mechanics and everything being towards that is how you keep people invested, much more so than like hit points are not a very good narrative mechanic. They're okay, but they're not like great. Versus, do this. Like I think one that you have with your code, Ryan, is as long as you follow it, you are better at making people believe you because you seem trustworthy. And it's like, and that has so many implications when you're playing in terms of how you play your character and how others perceive your characters and the different levers you can use.
Yeah. I don't know, Ryan, do you really want to like, this next question that we have in here is like not very interesting for PbtA games, honestly. I feel like we've done it so many times.
Yeah. I mean, unless you have like any big thoughts about the character sheet layout.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any specific thoughts, Tyler, about like PbtA character sheets and like the playbook style of character building?
Not tons, but like a little bit. Namely, it's just one thing that I really appreciate so much. I am not a fan. I'm not a huge fan of D&D at this point.
Yeah.
Or of Pathfinder or any game. Like PbtA is about the most crunchy I can do for a role-playing game. And I love that it is a single piece of paper. I think that's really key. I think any game that is like fundamentally fun to play should be able to fit the key elements on a Post-it note of like, and that's for me. I understand other people like, and I'm not yucking any yum, for some people the crunch is everything, but for me, it's the storytelling and that doesn't have the same level of rules. So I like that the overall, I like that the playbooks kind of get you to the key things. I do wish they were a little better organized because you're shown all these options and then there's no way to have those options not be there. So you constantly have to filter through to be like, what did I pick?
Yeah.
As opposed to having it. But
pulling out
that's
what
like,
info is actually important to you is, I could
but
see
like
that.
that's always the problem in doing anything that's not digital.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like that I think that they offer that really low barrier to entry on character building. We talked kind of about the ease of PbtA for new players. And I think the playbooks really lend themselves to that it's like, here's what you need to make a character. Like, you just need this piece of paper.
Yeah.
Rather than being like, okay, and now flip to page 300 in the book and you're going to pick out these 7 spells and these, and then write down what they do. And then there's not actually room on the sheet for you to write down what they do.
Right.
You can just write the name of them and what level you have them at and all that kind of stuff. And so I do think that there's something very easy and clean about PbtA character building. And it is one of the things, admittedly, that makes it hard to cover so many PbtA games on our show is that, like, okay, most of them are, check the boxes.
Yeah, most of them follow
you know,
from the same format. Yeah.
Right. But they do what they should. And I do think, I mean, I do think a cool thing about like a digital tool, it would be really nice to be like, okay, I pick these options, and then it, you know, fills your sheet with only the things that you've picked. That would be really cool. But you know, paper can only do so much. So
yeah, I as soon as we made characters for ours, I made a spreadsheet, like a Google Docs spreadsheet version of playbooks, where that is just essentialized down to the most key information. And that is helpful, because otherwise we were losing airtime to sorting through like, wait, which one? I just didn't want that. So you can make your own pretty easily, but also, you know, I agree, like for Monster of the Week or any PbtA thing, the benefit is you can sit down at a table with a sheet of paper, and within 10 minutes you are all playing a game. And that is clearly what the focus is. It's on getting through a one shot fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is great. That has a lot of benefit.
Yeah.
So how do we think character creation for Monster of the Week stacks up to other systems that we've played or created characters for?
I mean, it feels pretty classically PbtA. It's, you know, like
it does,
as expected for that part.
It feels more malleable due to the nature of the like genericness of Monster of the Week as a category.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Honestly, because like because I made a Muppet out of a gumshoe.
You did?
Right?
You did.
What?
Yeah.
I did.
Oh, that barely
like,
showed up in the.
But admittedly, that was you, not the game.
Well, exactly.
Like there was nothing
like,
in here
a lot
that
of games,
supported that.
But there was nothing in there that prevented it either.
No, but I don't know that a lot of other PbtA games would have prevented that either.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think of like games that would have prevented that.
Right.
Because I don't think like even D&D
because I know there's
really
like
said.
a lot of games where it's like you are this type of people, like what is it?
Yeah.
Brindlewood Bay? Is it like your old
you're like golden
people
girls.
trying to solve mysteries?
Yeah.
You're
Okay, so like that's like a genre thing, I guess.
Yeah.
So some genres are more apt to malleability than others, and I think Monster of the Week feels extremely malleable because it's like, well, how much magic do you want in your play? How much like nitty gritty, like down to the street sort of play do you want? How much cryptid action do you like?
Yeah, it's like a little different because like Blades in the Dark is another urban fantasy PbtA game.
Yeah.
And that presupposes the world of like what you have, factions of supernatural and stuff. Monster of the Week really is like, you as the keeper and as the other players, you don't know anything about the world until after people have picked their characters. Unless you have a session zero conversation about what you want it to be going in. But what is interesting is you can create the game without any conversation ahead of time.
Right. We had none.
That is true.
And so so we didn't.
I mean, I'm not saying that what we did was a good example of what you can or should do.
No. But
folks,
still,
here's what it looks like if you don't have that conversation.
And we did again. I do think there is a needle that you can thread with what we created, in which it is a world with sensical internal rules.
Right. Yeah.
It's sensical externally, no. But
absolutely.
Internally, the people inside the world understand that the world that they're in is like. I think that is very possible, and that is. The benefit of the Monster of the Week as a form is the generic, like the genre labels are so vague and so broad because again, you could, if you wanted to say like Star Trek The Next Generation is a Monster of the Week show. You know, because ultimately all you're saying is, or you could say Law and Order SVU is a Monster of the Week show. Like it's just really a description of here is an episodic structure with a villain or an obstacle that needs to be overcome. And so then, but if that's all it is, both the plus and minus is there's so much room to create and define as you go. And until you've done that, you don't have anything.
Right. I think that's the thing we run into with a lot of games is that like you know, a lot of the pluses are minuses depending on what you're looking for in a game, which is why there is such a wide variety of games available, because not everything, like there's no game that does everything. And so while there are a lot of opportunities to write your own world and narrative and genre and all of that kind of stuff with this game, you have to do a lot of work to write your own world and narrative and genre.
Yeah, you have to thread the needle. The one thing I will say is because the world building is through character, it can leave some odd gaps where like in our process, right, we didn't really establish what the supernatural is at all.
No, we did not.
And like
that seems like maybe a gaping hole that we
so that can be the one thing is you do all of these things, you create these really fun specific characters with specific relationships and stuff, and then it's like, okay, so we're going to go investigate a werewolf, or like it can actually lower the impact of the supernatural element pretty significantly, because the character creation part of it is actually so rich and fun that then trying to tag it into the broader concept of a supernatural hunting thing is like, actually, I'm more invested at this point in exploring Muppet, like Muppet culture.
Yeah, this Muppet situation.
Like I'm more invested. And so I think like for a certain player, Monster of the Week character creation leads you into wanting to do more like a telenovela structure instead. So it is like, I think Monster of the Week is a very good gateway drug into other more interesting PbtA game systems. Like I'm trying to remember what the telenovela
Pasión de las Pasiones.
Yes. And which is fantastic. And it's super fun.
So good. That's, I didn't even think about that like we barely talked about the supernatural at all, other than the fact that I am not actually a psychic.
Right.
And that we did clean up a ghost site.
Right. That was also fake.
Right.
So
that's right. It wasn't even real ghost. We told them it was ghost.
We don't know. All we know is there was one psychic.
Fair, all supernatural things
that
we've seen are fake.
Yeah. Like
except for the psychic
stuff.
Except
for the one psychic
stuff.
Yeah.
Like if I were the keeper, I would probably lean into that and be like, oh, what the supernatural in this world are psychic emanations and psychopomps and things, and they create, supernatural impacts, but they are not, you're not going to, like, I would probably be like, this is not a world with cryptids.
Right.
Whereas like Mystery County is a world that is primarily cryptids and fearsome critters of like North American storytelling, is where we ended up as like our main source of the supernatural.
Yeah.
And then angels got added on top of that.
Right. Yeah. Also.
And then it just became, so in our world, angels are just a cryptid essentially.
I like that though.
Yeah.
It's its own special kind of weird.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
How do you think the process of making characters in this game reinforces or like sets the expectations that people will have for playing the game?
I think we kind of touched on it, but the process really reinforces, come up with your own ideas and then weave them into other people's ideas and vice versa. But it is this like tent pole model where you're starting very far apart in your own things and you are going to eventually connect these together. So there's a lot of agency and autonomy reinforced inside of the character creation, which is ultimately what playing it feels like, is that, because the one thing that like they talk about with Monster of the Week with like a playbook like The Chosen, for example, is they're like, you have to be careful because you don't want a Buffy and then the Scoobies. Right. You want everybody to be equally important, and so you don't want somebody to be primary. You want it to be that the group is primary, or that every individual is going through their own arc. And I think they do a very good job of designing it such that there is no way that Ryan's Muppet is any more or less important than Amelia's con person,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is cool. I really appreciated and valued that.
Yeah, I do think it also, the thing that we've talked about in other PbtA games we've covered, but when you get to that like history and like backstory kind of section where you start asking questions to other people or saying this is how we go together, it starts to kind of invite that collaboration of like, okay, I've made my character, I've done my thing, picked all my options. Now we get to talk about how this goes together, like how there is like a mutual decision, how Ryan making a Muppet like impacts my character and like what I'm doing over here. And that collaborative thing is something that continues to happen throughout the game and gameplay, and that sort of sense of like, I have control over my own character, but it is shared storytelling that we are all doing.
Right. And the degree of control over your own character is always navigated also because, in the character creation process, there are times where I tell you things about that your character has done.
Right.
But you still ultimately get control over defining what that meant for your character or like, if that's really what happened or not, but that is what I perceived to happen.
Right.
Which I think is cool. Like, I like the way that it preserves that autonomy.
Absolutely. It's a good balance, I think. That it's hard to strike.
Agreed. Yeah.
It is. So for you, Tyler, what do you feel is one of the biggest flaws of character creation in this system, and what's one of your favorite parts?
Great question. This might be a little esoteric.
Please.
I don't like games. I think most games, character creation is an uneven process. You do something that is intensely creative and fun, and you build too much story before you've played any story. And it leaves you a bunch of hooks individually that you're like excited to explore, and you are not going to explore them because somebody else has to explore them. Like it is the GM's job to explore those, and the GM has with us 3 different sets of story hooks to do, plus whatever the especially in Monster of the Week, they're supposed to do a standalone mystery that has nothing to do with the 3 of us, right? Or has loose ties to the 3 of us. So my being like, so I'm mostly creating vibes for my character, but like my investment in who is under the Muppet of Flapjack the cat doesn't matter to the story at all. And unless I disrupt the storytelling of the GM to pursue that, I have to wait for the GM to give me permission to explore that thing that I decided was very interesting to me in the character creation process. Like, I understand the value of creating narrative hooks for the GM or buttons for the GM to push, but a lot of systems do that, and then you don't have any way to push those buttons, and it becomes just kind of like parallel play. I find to me, it's I find it better, or even the like, you get to pick 3 moves, right? But again, in a session of Monster of the Week, you're only going to roll 4 or 5 times. So like, you're not going to, those moves are feel cool, and you're not going to use them very much initially. And I just think systems that are more like you're a blank slate and your actions in play tell you who you are, and you are going to find out who your character is at the end of a session of play are more interesting because they're easier to be like, yes, this isn't what I was hoping did come about, or I'm not trying to achieve the vibe I started out with throughout. I'm not trying to prove to myself that my character is who it is. My character is revealing themselves to me through play. And then I am mechanically reinforcing that once it is true, but I don't really know many systems that are like that. Like, the only one that comes to mind is a very dumb system that we play a lot when we are doing side stuff, which is called Roll for Shoes.
Roll for Shoes. So
and
good.
Roll for Shoes has almost no rules. The only rules to Roll for Shoes is you start out, you have one ability and it's doing anything, and you're not very good at it. And as you go, when you try to do stuff, you use do anything. But if you do it really well, suddenly you discover that you had a more specific skill that you didn't know you had. So you might actually be really good at breaking down doors. And as you go, you build up your character with all of these more specific skills. And it is very fun. It is intense. It is very difficult to maintain any cohesive narrative in it because it is so broad. But the idea of discovering as you go along what's important to your character, what you are good at, what you react to. I just find for a long time, I would make characters and just get in my head thinking about them and being really invested in like, oh man, this is so cool. This is like, this is a really neat arc I could see happening. And then playing and being like, oh, I'm just fighting a werewolf. none of this matters.
Right.
That's a very interesting like other side of that, because I very much love building characters that have a lot of those hooks for a GM to pull on, because I always view them as somebody who is never a GM, view them very much as like, this is me signaling to the GM, like these are things that I would find fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is that chance that they don't pay off or go anywhere, or and obviously like now I'm at the point where I've created so many characters that like I don't have that same level of like attachment to most of the characters that I make, because it is the motto of our show is that we don't ever play them. We don't we build characters, we do not play them. So I don't have that, and I think because I've been doing that for so long that even when I do build characters to play in actual games, I am not necessarily deeply attached to them. But yeah, I can see, in my early days of role playing being like, this is cool, and this is a cool choice, and then like, I could see the disappointment of that never paying off. Personally, it's not a thing that I've like.
Right. Like, I think to me, like that, because I have very similar progression, and the making a character that's really interesting to you and with a lot of hooks that you want to explore makes a lot of sense to me in a 2-person game where it's you and the GM, where they get to put all of their attention on you, like the little darling that you are.
That is only child behavior.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And
maybe because I'm one of 5 kids, it's just not something that ever really mattered to me.
And so I think character creation really should be group creation. It should be like, what common elements do we all share? Those are the things that we create, because those are the things that the GM has to focus on, is what does the group do? And our job is to individualize ourselves while the GM is doing that. Like, our job is to create relationships between us, while the GM's job is to focus on what the group's experience and identity is.
Yeah.
And I don't really know many games that fully successfully do a process like that. Like Fiasco has some elements of that where you create relationships and stuff, and then the GM focuses on something else entirely.
More and more games that have that like relationship building as part of the character building process. I think, especially when you look at more like old school games, like that was not a thing. You built your character and you brought your character to the table, and it was up to the GM to figure out what to do with that. Which is where you have that sort of tradition of like novel length backstories and things like that.
Right, exactly.
And I think, so there's definitely a lot of games that still have that element. I think more and more games now have that like party relationship as part of the character creation.
And I will say, Monster of the Week, what is the expansion? The Codex of Worlds. They do have an additional system where you create like the group that you are part of, that defines you all, and relationships and specific traits and abilities from that. And I think that is really smart, that you build, that you do like the world building in terms of, we don't create characters first, we create the community that the characters live in first, or we create we define the space that the characters are going to be in, and then you play a generic thing in that space that over time speciates out into something with narrative legs.
This is our favorite part of the show now. This is what we call our fan fiction section. where we talk about what would happen if we ever did, for some ungodly reason, decide to play as these characters. So this is the part where we get to just tell our own story without having to use dice. What do we think would happen with this group of people? Like,
so the thing that I'm
what's the typical week look like?
Yeah, what I'm most curious about is, okay, so like, say there's somebody else who has to be the GM for our insane characters.
I'm so sorry, whoever you are, hypothetical person,
is where the inciting incidents come from, because my character is essentially passive, right? Like, good at stuff, but I follow. And the whole time I was like, who do I follow? Like, do I follow Flapjack or do I follow Tennessee? And I was like, because like,
I think you follow your mom.
Well, I do what my mom says.
And I think we get roped into that by virtue of the way things go, because you're the one with the funding. I think we've got Flapjack, who is this sort of this PI, and I think very much like kind of, even though you don't work for that organization, I think you're very much like on retainer.
I like the thought that that Flapjack is getting hired constantly because you just don't want to do the work.
I immediately am subcontracting out. I do like
that.
A
good boss delegates.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I do like this idea that it's missions coming in that I'm immediately delegating to the two of you because you're more competent than me.
Right.
And then
I'm unclear on like why I'm on board with this, other than
it's a great access to a con. Also, because I presumably
I'm getting paid for it.
Yeah, you're getting paid for it, and you get to submit your billing, and you have to be padding that out.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we saw what I was doing with my gratuity payments.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm not.
That's very
conning the billionaires over there.
Like,
yeah. And then you also get to like write that off as like, oh, I was keeping an eye on her.
Exactly.
Like, you know, we do need a high level psychic to help out with this. So
the amazing thing is I know that, or my Muppeteer knows that you are
back at this
my older sibling.
Yeah,
but you never break character.
I never break
character,
so
but like I have that emotional attachment, so I would be pulling you into these cases as well.
True.
Like, hey, we're going to need a psychic for this. Some weird stuff could go off. I know you're a great psychic.
So a little bit breaking character, because as a gumshoe, you do know that Tennessee is not a real psychic, but you keep saying that Tennessee is a psychic because of your personal relationship. You're like, oh, we do need a psychic. So everybody else is just, so it's always like, oh, wow, Flapjack really believes that Tennessee is a
psychic, right?
Maybe that's part of Flapjack's character, though, too.
Yeah.
Is Flapjack is also like, gets invested and kind of falls for these sorts of schemes.
That's so funny.
You're a PI that falls for schemes.
Falls for the psychic schemes.
Yeah.
Like the psychic stuff, the like
I like the idea though that I'm like good enough at it that there's a part of you that's like, maybe she's not faking it.
I don't know. Yeah.
Right. Like, why would my sister do anything like this?
She wouldn't fake it.
Right.
So you're like not even sure that I am faking it.
Right, exactly.
Oh no!
I know you're scamming people with gratuity fees.
Yes, I scam. Like that's what the scam is. It's not the psychic part; it's the tipping.
Yeah,
that's what the scam is. I'm
One thing
overcharging.
that is not related to the world that or the play that we would be doing, but just related to the world, is that I have to imagine like one of the most despised people, like the lowest of the low, would be a person who points out the changes in personality in Muppets over time, of like the person who's like, like Flapjack's voice is a little bit higher than it used to be, and everybody be like, oh, you suck, you're the worst.
Yeah. Those people, it's like the people on the corners of Reddit are like, did you notice that actually
Flapjack's going through some stuff? Just let him be.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
He's going for a different role here. Come on.
Yeah, I would be curious how much actual paranormal we encountered would be. I do believe you could play Monster of the Week and not have real paranormal presence, because you can just have the presumption of paranormal that gets explained by, like, you meddling kids. Like, I would have gotten away with
That's
it.
what I'm wondering. What if there is no paranormal outside of the psychic stuff, and that's extremely rare?
Right.
Because like your organization that you're coming from is scamming everybody.
Well,
Yeah,
don't you do
exactly.
like live
Right?
capture? So like how many psychics are left?
Right. And how many have we ever captured?
Well, right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like what percentage of the psychic population do you currently have in custody?
Yeah. I mean, given that it's billionaires and stuff, I would guess there is a sizable number of people who are captured, and the number of them who are actually psychics is incredibly low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, part of the nefarious back dealings of the organization is to exploit the supernatural
Yeah.
for personal gain, right? So there has to be
So there has to be some.
level.
Yeah. And we know that Greer is a real psychic because that's already been established.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
yeah,
so we
I
know
would
that they're
imagine.
real.
I would think they're real.
Are we the fall guys?
What?
Are we the team that gets sent out to like say it wasn't supernatural?
Yeah.
It was this.
Oh, shoot.
And then meanwhile, the strike team is behind us, like ahead of the game, figuring things out before us, capturing the actual supernatural threat ahead of time.
Yeah. So then
they know how how incompetent you are, but you don't know that they know that you're incompetent.
Exactly. Yeah. So in the original thing, then it would have been not that we were telling them that there were ghosts, but that I thought I was just there to cover up a spill by saying ghosts, but it turns out
It really was ghosts.
There actually was ghosts, and I just don't believe it.
So why are we doing? There's so many layers.
Because I'm so incompetent that if I'm like, oh, it was ghosts, everybody's like, it wasn't ghosts.
Oh.
Like this guy is a friggin' idiot. But it turns out it was ghosts.
It was ghosts. So you're trying to cover up the fact that it was ghosts by thinking it wasn't ghosts by saying it was.
Exactly.
I got it.
Yeah.
I got it.
But we don't.
It's like
we
the
don't know
mother of a
anything.
Muppeteer.
Yeah, it's the mother of
costume.
a Muppeteer's Muppet. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is all the Matryoshka dolls all the way down.
I would watch this show.
Oh yeah.
So much. Oh my God.
I would have to watch it 6 times before I understood what was happening.
Yeah.
This is one of those shows that would benefit from a rewatch.
Right. Like the more you rewatch it, you're like, oh, I didn't catch that.
100%.
Wait.
Uh-huh.
This has very devoted subreddits.
Yeah.
Where people have like lots of arguments at like, like weekly watch threads.
I feel like the gameplay would go one of two directions. That we would either get increasingly involved in these labyrinthine worlds within worlds and roles within roles. Like it would immediately become so intensely weighty, or we would do like Monster of the Week, where every week is just like, there's something weird going down by the docks. And we would just never address any of the background like layers that we have put in the world.
Yeah.
And it would just be like,
just that would be for our secondary characters. So when Ryan is playing his Muppeteer, and then you and I can each get like separate characters as well.
Yeah.
And play those on our off weeks of like, this is what's actually happening.
Yeah, I would love for the.
I do like unlocking that possibility of like, now this is what's really happening. Mm-hmm. And like, I love the thought that the Muppeteer for Flapjack the cat is hyper competent at something else.
Oh my gosh, other than PI work, like.
Yeah. Oh. And when on downtime, when nobody's around and Flapjack's in storage, the Muppeteer goes out to
What if the Muppeteer is actually psychic?
Whoa.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah. That would be very funny. And they just never, because to be actually psychic would be breaking character. So they just suppress.
They just never use it.
Yeah.
Unless Flapjack's in storage.
Yeah. It could be great.
Flapjack's at the cleaners. Gotta pull up my psychic abilities. That would be amazing.
Oh yeah, what is fun about this world is I feel like so many of the reveals are reveals that the players pull that the keeper also has no awareness of.
There's like so much of that happening too. Is like, okay, like I have now established this fact, but my character has no clue. So like
exactly.
we've established the fact that Flapjack's puppeteer is my sibling, but my character doesn't know that.
Yeah. Or like we're playing and we're like, a year into this campaign, and then I reveal of like, and you guys see, I turned a little too fast, and you guys see at the back of Grantham's neck is a zipper.
Oh no, Grantham's a puppet!
Grantham's a Muppet! Oh no!
A person Muppet the whole time.
Yeah.
What?
And it's just layers all the way down.
Oh my gosh.
Unhinged.
Yeah. I mean, I feel
amazing.
Like whenever it gets close to ratings week, it's like,
oh
boom.
yeah. Yeah, but the whole time the keeper is like, I'm just trying to get this werewolf thing resolved.
Right? Yeah.
Like, you guys keep hitting these marks. It's a great storytelling. It's really interesting stuff, but also we're still trying to resolve.
We have been paying the guy to play the werewolf this whole time.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna need you to address that at some point, because he's been in makeup, and at some point the union's not gonna be happy.
Yeah. How many of the monsters are actually just other Muppets?
I know. just paid actors to distract us specifically to create the cover story
like
for the real stuff that's happening.
McAllister Aid's budget is actually just
Muppet
fake stuff.
That's
to
why we have
put
to bring them in
off
alive.
the tracks. It's like we are up. The rest of it is actually a very great organization, but this particular team, they spend so much of their budget trying to set us off on the wrong sense,
100%.
just to keep us out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh no!
Wow.
I do like that. Essentially, what we created is Scooby-Doo world, like late stage capitalism's version, like a late stage Scooby-Doo world, where it is like, oh, these people wear costumes to get away with stuff, and then if you keep taking it to its ultimate conclusion, you can have a world where it's like, oh, there are people who are Muppets and have to exist as the Muppets that they're playing at all times. And
why would anyone choose to do that? That's what I'm still stuck on, is why would you become a Muppet?
I mean, I get it though, because you have the option of being like a runaway 19-year-old kid, or you have the option to be like a venerated, well-respected private investigator.
You're right.
It's like, oh, this is a mask I get to put on and inhabit.
Anyone can wear the mask.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Where does this rate on within CCC's world that has been created through character creation?
I mean, this is a weird one.
Okay.
This is a weird one.
Okay, good.
I mean, I don't know.
I would say it's
I don't know. They're hard to rate against each other. I would name one that is less grounded than this, Ryan. Right now.
I mean, the D20 world was kind of weird. Where each face of the D20 was a different biome, and then gravity physics was weird along the edges, and
that's
we were trying to prevent the world from becoming a sphere.
That's right. Yeah, the conspiracy spherists who thought that the world was round and it wasn't.
That's hilarious.
And they're actively trying to fight to make the world round again.
But their motivations are sensical. I don't know. There is a thing where the fundamental substance of society in our world is so fundamentally twisted that it is a thing of like, wait, what means what in this place? What is
but I did just remember we created Sims 4 esports, so we
did do that once. Yep.
Yeah, where it was just one guy holding a controller and the rest of the team around him yells at him to do stuff.
Ooh.
So this might be more normal than that.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Right, we have created some stuff.
It's up there.
Yeah, it's up there with our weirder ones. Yeah.
But I expect
I regret nothing.
Oh,
I want to be
100%.
really clear on that. I no regrets. No regrets.
Amazing. I do love this world a lot.
Yeah.
There's
I
something
don't know
very
that I could
pleasing
play
about
in
it.
I honestly, I don't know that I
It would be challenging.
This might take a couple of session zeros, but there is something there.
Yeah. Yeah, we would need somebody really strong to like keep us on track, though. I
100%.
have a feeling that like we could derail with the best of them at this point.
Easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might have just created a game where there actually are no monsters.
I think
That's what I'm thinking.
of the options, that is my favorite of them. That would be the funniest and most fun thing, to be in a world where there is something that is so bonkers that is just a given that it is constantly exploring supernatural that is not present and is instead explained by the normal rules of this bonkers world.
Right. Yeah. I like the idea that we are playing a game that's like the opposite of Monster of the Week. That it's what is actual normal thing of the week. Yeah. Normal problem that we blew out of proportion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still want to see what it looks like, though. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
There are many more questions yet to be answered, I think.
Absolutely. But we'll never play, so we'll never figure that out.
Know. No.
Well, let's go ahead and get into our final segment with the advancement discussion and take it up a level.
Take it up a level. Take it up a level.
So in this segment, we talk a little bit about advancement and growth in this game. We talked a little bit about XP. You've mentioned several times like things that we could do kind of advancements. Can you talk about how mechanical advancement works in this game?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward and very similar, I think, to other PbtA. When you fail a roll, so if you get a 7 or less and you fail, you get 1 point of experience. Once you get 5 points of experience, you get to level up. And then your experience track goes back down to 0. When you level up, you get to pick an improvement. Each playbook has its own list of possible improvements. 5 of those are increases to various stats where you can add +1 to a specific stat. You get to take additional moves from your playbook. And then after that, and you can also take moves from other playbooks that are not currently in use. Those are like the basics. And then each playbook has its own specific improvement moves that are available as well. One thing that is interesting is when you take an improvement, you can't take it a second time unless it specifies to that. So if you add 1 to your charm, that's the most your charm is going to raise because you can't add 1 to charm again. Once you have leveled up 5 times, so once you've received 25 points of experience in totem, then you can take advanced improvements where there are sort of new second level improvements. This is usually around when you're starting to hit the point where you're wanting to flesh out other characters in the world, either by making a new second character that you play or retiring your existing character. And there's just higher level things that you can use to juice the narrative at that point. So that's the advancement process in a nutshell.
I like that some of the things in each playbook are like there's unique little treasures in there. Like one of them for mine is recover a stash of money from the old days, enough to live without care for a year or 2.
Yeah.
There was one in the professional. Add a new resource tag for your agency or change a red tape tag.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can. The improvements allow you to, if you want, to change like elements of the world that you've already created, unilaterally, which is very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like with mine, I can get my own haven, like an office or something like that. Be very fun.
That is fun.
Which implies that I don't have one right now.
Yeah.
It's true.
Just working out of my home or apartment.
Or
who knows
the
where.
Van.
Or the van.
Yeah, you forgot about the van. Huh.
Yeah. Never forget the van.
Well, it's not my van, so.
No. But you do have to spend a lot of time in it.
Yep.
I do have to spend a lot of time in it. Yep.
Like it or not. #vanlife.
I do think it's interesting that the Gumshoe does not have the option to take moves from other playbooks.
They do. Oh, yeah. They get 2 new Gumshoe moves. You're right. That is interesting.
Yeah. That might just be an oversight on their part. I'm not sure. But usually that is the case. But I don't know. So that's what you do. You do that and then you kind of mechanically flesh out your character over time. It's fun. my players, again, I love my players. I love playing with them. So this is not a complaint. They have remembered to level up maybe 3 times. It is not they forget to track the experience stuff because we're playing online, so you don't have like a sheet to write on. So, and also because it's a podcast, the rhythm and the pacing of it is different. So we actually don't really use experience much at all. I will periodically I will tell somebody like, hey, you can add a new move. But really what it comes down, my players aren't really min-maxers at all. They're more min.
It's kind of hard to like with PbtA, really. It's not a game made for that.
Right, exactly. So usually what will happen is somebody will tell me, ideally ahead of time, though not always, hey, I was thinking about switching to this, either a new playbook or like I wanted to add this new move I saw, or I kind of wish I had some way to do X, and then we'll just be like, okay, cool, let's figure out how to add that in. And usually I'll be like, what are you giving up to get that, just so that we don't have, never reach decision paralysis by having too many cool options. Right. I think a useful rule of thumb is having 3 cool moves that you can do plus what everybody can do is like more than that you don't really need, especially for like a podcast setting where especially a podcast setting where you're a group of 5 plus the GM. That's just a lot of people and a lot of spotlight shifting.
Absolutely. And most of these advancements, they don't follow a narrative. They generally will be like informing the narrative going forward when you select them, right?
Yeah. There really isn't a lot that is retrospective or reinforcing of existing. Like a lot of the mechanical stuff in the game is even a lot of like we touched on it briefly, but like with luck, when you spend your luck, there's a move that is attached to the spending of the luck. In addition to getting the full benefit of the roll, you also have usually some sort of cost or narrative element that happens. And those are historically in Monster of the Week, in the original Monster of the Week stuff, those are all future narrative hooks for the GM. I think they're getting away from that in later updates and things, because I think they might have realized the similar thing is to me, which is that it's like, we're already actually pursuing narrative hooks. We already have a bunch. So having to incorporate a new wrinkle, like I know the Crooked's luck is somebody that you once knew reemerges in your life. And that really, again, reinforces this individual narrative focus that doesn't play well with a group narrative. So it's hard to incorporate all of those luck moves into the narrative without it just being like, cool, let's just do separate sessions for each individual character.
Yeah, like that's the game today then.
So the new ones are more like costs that happen or like changes to how you experience the world that can impact others going forward, which I think is really smart. I think the way that they're learning and updating Monster of the Week as they go is really reassuring. Like they have a good sense of what is actually most fun about playing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've reached the end of our episode. Tyler, thank you so very much for joining us to talk about Monster of the Week. This has been an absolute blast.
I'm so happy to be here. So glad for it. I can't wait for your open license rebrand of Muppets of the Week.
Yes. Yeah. It's coming any day now.
Lowercase m.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah. No, it's like in the Muppet movie when they have like the off-brand, like Dr. Teeth and Electric Mayhem, it's the Muppets.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what ours. It'll be Muppet of the Week.
Yeah.
The Muppet of the Week. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tyler, can you remind everyone where they can find you online and the sorts of things you have going on? Yeah,
I'm on the Mystery County Monster Hunters Club podcast at mysterycounty.com or wherever you find podcasts. We're in season 4 going strong, and there's a lot of backlog. And if today made sense to you, so will our podcast. If today didn't make sense to you, our podcast is not at this extreme.
Yeah.
So our
It's
podcast
entertaining whether it makes sense or
yes,
not.
our podcast dips its toe into wildness, but ultimately is about I think the tagline that we've come up with that we like the most is like it's about teenage monster hunters dealing with the biggest monster of all, which is being a teenager. Is the way to they're so loosely interested in monsters and mostly interested in being self-absorbed teenagers. So it's very easy to listen to and follow along because it's mostly listening to cringe. It's mostly being like, oh yeah, I remember how that felt.
Oh yeah, I remember being a teenager.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, thank you for sitting down with us. And thank you to everyone for tuning in.
Call to action.
Yeah, like that.
Amelia, before we get to the banter,
Yes.
this is our 300th episode
I don't believe
releasing
you.
on our public feed.
I don't believe you.
300.
There's no way.
There is. I can show you a
You're
screenshot.
like, I've edited so many. I feel every one of them.
I feel every single one of these episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. It's huge.
That's
huge
a
milestone.
lot of episodes.
It's so many.
That's so many episodes.
I'd say 99% of them, give or take, are full episodes.
Yeah.
And not little bonus things or whatever.
No, we do very few of those. I mean, we do bonus things, but they're full episode bonus things.
Yeah.
That's so many
absolutely.
episodes. Wow, look at us go.
So many. I know.
The little
Series
podcast
77 right around the corner. I know.
Yes.
I'm really proud of us. I'm really proud that we've been able to stick with it. And I look forward to the next 300 because, good Lord, we will never run out of stuff to talk about.
No, we're not going to ever run out of games. Ever.
Yeah.
They keep making them.
They keep making them and they keep making them interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Source, people keep sending them to my house.
Yeah.
Just-
And also, like, people are interesting to talk to.
That is true. That is true. Other people interesting to talk to sometimes.
I know.
Especially about games. Yeah. I mean, I can't rate their merits on other conversational topics, but no, that's amazing. We've covered so much. We've grown so much. That's wild. That's wild.
Yeah. It's an interesting milestone.
Yes.
And to have it come at the end of our Monster of the Week series with Tyler, fantastic.
Yeah.
Kind of shows the culmination of how we've grown as character creators and whatnot. And like it has the full range of emotions that we go through in this episode.
Well, yeah, that's I don't know. I would also like to take this time to announce that after what happened in this episode, I will be quitting Character Creation Cast as a show. I will not be participating in this any longer.
No.
If I stuck around, dear listeners, even after Ninja Turtles, nothing can stop me. I am invincible. Only God can kill me. Like I could probably kill God. I don't know.
Yep. There's many games where that's possible.
You made some choices here. And I think my thing was like it wasn't even so much that I didn't realize that like that was a thing that you could do so much as like I did not know that that's the page that we were on. And like I think this is one of those situations where I wonder like if in a regular game I might have like done an X card and been like, this is not where I wanted my character to go. Like this is not where
I wanted
this is
to
not
play
the direction.
a serious Monster of the Week campaign.
Right. And so like I would love to, maybe we should do like a little debrief episode afterwards where I'm like, hey man, this is the first time that you've made a decision where I've been like, wow, I don't like that. Like the fans loved it. The fans loved it.
Yeah.
People are talking about it on the Discord and on Bluesky and all that. Do it for the fans. Yeah, that'd be an interesting discussion to have. Been like, I've never X'd anything in our show.
Yeah.
And, and it certainly wasn't like, oh, it was offensive.
It wasn't like
it was just like
a crossed line or
like
anything.
That was not the game that I came here to play. So, yeah, it was an interesting.
Had this been a normal game, I would have been 100% there with you. And like, this would be fun to explore, but like I said, like I threw a wrench into everything.
Well, and because like I said it a couple times. I was like, this is not the character that I was making. Like, I was not making a character for this game that you were proposing. And so I think that threw me off. Hopefully it's not too bad in the audio that people can hear where I was like, what?
No, I think it sounds fantastic. Yeah. I really loved how that it played out, you know, quote unquote, at the table. And
yeah, I mean, it really did change everything.
Yeah.
There's
a lesson in there.
Mixed feelings about it.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's what the show is about, is exploring all aspects of character creation. And we just explored the aspect of a true goblin player.
Yeah.
Saying, this is what I'm doing, and we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also the idea that Amelia actually is not go with the flow all the time. In fact, most of the time she is not.
I think we handled it well.
No, I think it turned out great. I just think that that's probably an interesting thing for listeners to know behind the scenes, that I was not pleased with that choice. Yeah. I was not having it.
I know.
I mean, I had it. I did, because, you know. But yeah, I was not a choice I would have made.
Yeah. No. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. That's my fun little behind the scenes tidbit.
I know.
Yeah. I hope that doesn't ruin it for everybody, because now, like, even now I'm like, oh, I feel bad for not just like doing whatever. But it's like, that's what we tell people all the time. It's like, if it's not fun for you, don't do it.
Exactly. And that's kind of part of the reason why it happened, is like, this is not going to be for everybody for this sort of decision. And the fact that it played out kind of in real time of like, I'm so confused about this weird family tree, and
of like, what are we doing
who's
here?
a Muppet and who's not?
Like, this is not, again, this is not the game that I was playing, but that's fine. Whatever.
Yep. For entertainment purposes only.
Exactly.
Disclaimer.
Yeah. No Amelias were harmed in the making of this episode.
Exactly. Well, before we let you all go for the day, we do have some calls to action real quick.
As of right now, we are near the end of the One Shot Network annual Patreon drive. This event runs until October 30th to help raise funds for the network as a whole. It pays for things like equipment replaces when our gear goes bad, hosting all of the shows, as well as paying performers and editors for the main one-shot shows, like One-Shot, Campaign Skyjacks, Starwall. I would like to point out, why is my voice cracking? I'd like to point out, as I did, I think previously, that a lot of that money is for editing, and Ryan edits things. So this does directly benefit Ryan.
It does.
Yeah, if you're like, I don't listen to any of those main shows, you know, like Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, it benefits us as well, because I put a lot of that money into the show and helps us out in buy-ins and everything. So like, yeah, absolutely.
For sure. So with more funds, the show can do more things. For this event, you'll be able to see live stream stuff every day over on the One Shot Twitch channel, twitch.tv/OneShotRPG. There will be bonus content on the One Shot Patreon. Right now already, there is the Session 0 featuring both me and Ryan creating a world in Chimera with folks from other shows on the network. It is wild. I recently listened back to it after having actually played the sessions. And it is interesting what we actually ended up doing with the decisions that we made. And it was just a lot of fun to listen to on its own, even if you hadn't played the game or anything. It was a lot of fun to just listen to and be like, what wild choices are those?
I know.
So that is up right now on the One Shot Patreon feed if you want to hear some excellent world building with us.
Absolutely.
As of right now, we have raised enough to do a feed swap with One Shot and get the AP of Chimera onto the One Shot public feed. So everyone will be able to hear that. So if you want to hear how all of those decisions came to life and want to hear us play with some other folks on the network, it was a fantastic game. I had so much fun. So I can't wait until that goes up and I can hear the finished product. In exchange, Dylan and Tracy will host a series on our feed that we will slot in when it makes sense to do so, when they have time to record it, when we have a break in our stuff that we've recorded. So there's so much other stuff that's going on with that. You can find everything at patreon.com/OneShotPodcast for the event. Follow the One Shot Network on the various social things because they post there when they go live with the Twitch streams and everything too. There's been a lot of cool stuff going on there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of social stuff, that leads into our next announcement. So you're going to be starting to see less and less of us on the platform formerly known as Twitter. We are going pretty much all in on Bluesky at this point as our social media platform of choice. So if you want to follow along with any updates about the show, that and our Discord server are going to be the best ways to get a hold of that information. On Bluesky, we can be found at creationcast.net. And if you head there, you can find a starter pack that has us as well as all of our guests that would be really easy to follow with that starter pack. So if you're new to Bluesky, have we got a list for you?
Yeah.
You can just go there and hit one button and follow a whole bunch of really cool people.
Yeah, starter packs are really nice for anybody that doesn't use Bluesky. Basically, I went on there and I put together a list of everybody that we've had as guests on our shows that I could find their Bluesky profile. And put a list so you'll be able to just hit one button and you can follow all of those people. I also put together one for the One Shot Network so you can find all of the hosts and shows that are on Bluesky. Ideally, as we go forward, I'll maybe put together some other little starter packs to help everybody find people. But we're definitely much more active on there. It has better safety features now that Twitter has decided that actually people you block can still see your feed, and we were not cool with that. So I mean, along with the plethora of other things, it was just like that was like the final straw of straws. I should say we are also on Instagram, TikTok, etc. at CreationCast, wherever good social medias are sold.
Exactly. And we'll have all of that information right in the show notes for you.
Yes.
So check it out if you have a chance.
In addition to all of that, probably the most important thing I have to say, election is right around the corner. As of this episode coming out, it will be next week. So, if you're in the US, please look at what your options are for early voting. Lots of states have early in-person voting going on right now. Some states have it where you can request your absentee ballot. I did that by mail. I've already mailed mine back in. I'm very excited. It was a little bit of a tough road because you do need an adult witness to sign your ballot here in Wisconsin. And I don't have any of those at home.
Nope.
So I drove to my parents' house.
There you go.
But yeah, you should look up what your options are for voting early, voting what your polling place is, check to see how to register if you haven't yet. Different states have different rules about, registering before voting day, on voting day, what information you even need to bring to the polls, because why would they make it easy and have it the same across the country?
Exactly.
So yeah, look into that. It's vote.gov, I believe is you took it out of the little episode notes, but I believe vote.gov is the place to look it up. And you can go through there, find your state, search your zip code, find all of that information. So please make a plan to vote. I suspect even on voting day, there will be lines, like make a plan when you're going to go, where you're going to go, all of that kind of stuff. Please, this election is hugely, hugely important. Don't sit it out, please.
Absolutely.
And if you're not in America, pray for us. Just pray for us.
Yeah. And thanks for dealing with our calls to action for them.
Yeah.
We appreciate you as well.
Yeah, let us know when your elections are if you want us to shout them out.
Yeah, exactly. Finally, if you like what we are doing here and want to support our show, please head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/charactercreationcast and sign up for any of our basic tiers as a free trial. Each level has a lot of great rewards associated, like stickers, dice, exclusive episodes from time to time, etc., chats, and other great rewards. And we also have bonus outtakes for all the patrons, even the free ones. So it's a great time to sign up, and we'll have more as we have the headspace to produce more.
I appreciate everybody that's been sticking with us as we haven't been putting out as much, like with the chit chat. I know I'm very behind on the stickers, all that kind of stuff. I'm working on it. I promise. I promise. I'm working on having the headspace, like my health, family health, all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate everybody sticking with us. I know that it's been a little bumpy the last few months, but onward and upward.
There's an end in sight.
There is, yes. We want to thank all of you personally every episode. So without further ado, DJG, aka Tigranosaurus, Eric Bonce, Daryl Holiday II, we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Many thanks to Shadim Cabal, the Shyest Barbarian, and Benjamin Sweeney.
Rob Fletcher, Kevin Brown, and Tentacle Duck, thank you so much.
John Adamus, A3 Sketchpad, and Cole McCallum, we are so grateful to you. Thank you.
Carlos Salazar, Eric S., and Ian Pottmeyer, we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you to Liam G., Brian Colm, and Garden GM.
Tanglefoot, Blue Kryptonite, and Danny, thank you so much.
Thanks, Nicole Trainer, Liam Murray, and Kenning. We're so glad to have you here with us.
Brian Kurtz, Mark E. Fair, and Drew Owen, many thanks to all of you.
And thank you to all of our future patrons. Your support means the absolute world to us. Every bit of support here helps tremendously, and we are all incredibly grateful to you. If you are already supporting the Patreon or can't afford to do so right now and still want to show your support for the show, the next best way to do so is leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, or even Facebook, and we'll read that review right here and thank you personally.
That is all we have for today's episode. You can join us next time for a brand new, exciting game that I called Crunchy Peanut Butter of RPGs. Until then, everyone, take care, stay safe, drink some water, make a plan to vote, and keep making those amazing people. We'll see you next time.
Debate This asks the bold questions other podcasts are afraid to ask about our favorite comic books and video games.
So far, all we know about Mr. The Rock's upcoming project is that it is, quote, one of the biggest, most badass games, and, quote, one that he's played for years. What video game adaptation do you think he will star in, and as what character?
The answers are, well, delivered boldly and confidently.
Kirby games, on the other hand, are all about his copy abilities, his powers. In short, guys, a Kirby game is about drive. It's about power.
No! Oh my god!
I will
Guys,
not be part of this.
Kirby stays hungry, yet he devours.
Find Debate This on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you download podcasts.
How did he slip this by us, guys?
No, how did we get this?
I did it!
Character Creation Cast is a production of the One Shot Podcast Network and can be found online at www.charactercreationcast.com. Head to the website to get more information on our hosts, this show, and even our press kit. Character Creation Cast can also be found on Twitter and Bluesky at CreationCast, or on our Discord server at discord.charactercreationcast.com. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Bolter, and I can be found on Twitter and Bluesky at Lord Neptune or online at lordneptune.com. Our other host, Amelia Antrim, can be found on Twitter and Bluesky at Ginger Reckoning. Music for this episode is used with a Creative Commons license or with permission from the podcast they originated from. Further information can be found within the show notes. Our main theme music is Hero Remix by Steve Combs and is used with a Creative Commons license. This podcast is owned by us under Creative Commons. This episode was edited by Ryan Bolter. Further information for the game systems used and today's guests can also be found in the show notes. If you'd like to support our show, find us on Patreon. Get access to bonus episodes, exclusive merch, and much more at patreon.com/charactercreationcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, we find that the best part of any role-playing game is character creation. So go out there and create some amazing people. We'll see you next time.